Welcome to the Truth Wins podcast. This is episode 65. It's going to be a fun one today. Is the vaccine the mark of the beast? And the answer is yes. We'll see you on episode 66 next. No, this should have been episode 66. Where is my brain on this?
I know. That would be perfect. The numbers.
Okay, we're still going to roll with episode 65, vaccine, mark of the beast. Stu's here to keep me in line today. Say hey, Stu.
Hey, Stu.
And as always, Todd Sherman here, your host. We're going to have a lively discussion. Maybe you have heard this last year or so, people wondering if the vaccine is the mark of the beast. And I think before we jump into that, we have to back up a little bit and say, what is the mark of the beast? What is that even talking about? So let's go straight to the text. Let's go straight to the Bible, the last book of the Bible, Revelation, talking about God revealing the end times to John, and Revelation 13, verse 11 through 18. Would you mind reading that for me, Stu?
Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666.
666. Okay. Well, I think we got some problems there because it says the mark needs to be on the right hand or on the forehead. I haven't seen a lot of people with Band-Aids on their forehead, so I don't think they got the vaccine straight into their forehead. Plus, there's some pretty solid stuff right behind the skin there, so that'd be crazy. Somebody tries to jab you right in the head with a needle. That would be a little scary coming at you, wouldn't it?
I don't like needles in any part of my body.
No.
I try to avoid shots.
I bet you pass out. No offense here, but I've seen Stu sick. He doesn't do real well with the common cold. I can imagine you might be a little queasy after getting jabbed, taking blood kind of thing. No offense.
My younger brother had all kinds of health problems, and we used
because you would torture him.
Well, partially.
Past episodes, we've unpacked some of that.
We would go to the military, clinic to get our shots if we had to go overseas in different places, and we did. Mm-hmm. And I used to just cry and scream, and that was like 2 weeks ago. But but anyhow, I never wanted shots, and I'd always be terrible. And then one time the lady came out and said that I didn't need to get the shot, and I was just, my mother told me how much I had wasted my anguish and crying and things like that, and my brother had to go in and get like 2 or 3 just because of his health problems. And so it was sad because I used shots as a way to say, get me out of here, I can't do this. I was afraid. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is going to be what it's like when we get to this future time. Yes. A lot of people are going to be afraid.
Oh, for sure. Well, let's back up just or quite a bit. One is, if you're not sure, like end time stuff, we've done several episodes. I think early on, episodes 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, we did a 3-parter on the end of the world as we know it. Not long ago, we talked some more about end time stuff. So just a real quick recap is that we believe from Scripture that those who know Christ now in the church age will be raptured up or taken to be with him. And for 7 years, it'll be a great wake-up call for the world. And that'll be a time for those who haven't given their life to Christ yet to realize that he is who he says he was and is, and that their only salvation is through him. Now, there will be this guy called the AntiChrist. He will be the world leader, political leader, spiritual leader. He will set himself up as God halfway through the tribulation at 3.5 years. But in this passage of Revelation 13, it talks about first beast and second beast. So who is the first beast and who is the second beast that he's talking about here?
Well, and I think you would agree with this, but I think the first beast is Satan. The Bible refers to him as the dragon, or, early on he appears in Genesis as a snake. So I think that's going to be Satan, who's the accuser. Satan in Hebrew is the adversary, the enemy.
Isn't the first beast, though, the Antichrist in this Revelation 13? Because he's the one who has the wound, the first
what am
beast.
I asking? I'm reading something else while you're asking.
Okay, good. Threw you a little curveball. But he's the first beast who has the fatal wound had been healed. So basically Satan has like the false trinity.
Right, the Antichrist, the false prophet who's going to end Satan.
So like Satan's like the father, the Antichrist is the son, and then the false prophet's kind of the fake spirit. Would you agree with that?
Right.
Okay.
Because Satan tries to imitate what God does.
So this first beast is the Antichrist, right? So he gets the fatal wound.
I was reading a thing in Daniel about the little horn. Yeah.
So he gets the fatal wound and is apparently dead.
But he's going to come back.
But he's going to come back.
Mimicking Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come back to life. And so this second beast is like that third person of the unholy Trinity of coming back and bringing him to life and fire down. And all these people will be amazed, like, wow, this guy really is a God.
Yeah. And it's going to be, a time when people will be easily deceived too, because there's going to come a time when people will not believe in truth, and that's coming now.
Mm-hmm. So it says that the second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. And what was the image?
It'll be a big brother kind of thing. I don't know how that's going to work, but it'll be something that will be able to be seen by people around the world. And you can see with all the technology we have nowadays, it would be easy to project images around the world as we do now with our television and things like that.
So maybe remember Saddam Hussein had a big statue of himself that they pulled down in Iraq, or it's a virtual one, but they have to worship that image. Again, he sets himself up as deity, and so people are forced to worship that image. And back to Daniel, I don't know if that's what you were reading or the Daniel, the 70 weeks, but that's what Daniel was forced to do with, to worship that image. And he said no, and it was going to cost him his life, but God miraculously saved him from the lion's den. That'll be, that's like a small picture of what's going to happen in the end times, where people are forced to worship this image and to get this mark, this 666, somewhere on the forehead or on the right hand. And then if they don't, they can't buy stuff, they can't go any place, they can't get on a plane, so on and so forth, probably.
And you're starting to see things. So here's what I would say. The title of this episode is the vaccine, the mark of the beast. Well, I think we're going to come to a conclusion on that later, but I think it has some elements of what that's going to be like in it. Like you can't go into a store if you don't have your card. You can't buy gas if you don't go in. It's going to be one of those deals where the government tries to stop you from being active in commerce for anything. Mm-hmm. You won't be able to be part of the world. You'll be ostracized, pushed away. Yeah. And I think that's part of what this stuff is doing.
Yeah. And I think that's been Satan's plan throughout human history, is to lay the groundwork for the final events of human history. And so he's been laying that. And you see, typologies, you see symbols going on. I talked just a bit ago about Saddam Hussein. Now, Babylon, as we know in the Bible, is modern day Iraq. Right. And so Babylon has often been the metaphor, the symbol of Satan's capital. And that's, the world. the world is Babylon and the harlot is from Babylon. And so everything this world has to throw at you, the flesh, the enemy of God, and all the things of the culture out there drawing you away from God, Babylon is representative of that. But I think literally Babylon will be rebuilt, and maybe where Saddam Hussein's statue was, the Antichrist statue will be, and then it'll be cast all over the world, and you must worship it. And if you don't, then you will be killed.
So the Bible, in a sense, is a tale of two cities. There's Babylon and there's Jerusalem.
Yep.
Those are the only two teams. You're going to be on one or the other.
Yep.
So,
in the ancient world, that was like the far reaches of the ancient world. Civilization didn't go much further than that, going thousands of years ago, and so that did encompass everything. So it's not like New York and London today, because we're all around the world, but that symbolically, like the whole world, you're either on Team Babylon or you're on Team Jerusalem.
Right. And I think one of the other things that's going to happen, and this is from 2 Thessalonians 2, chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. It says, "Let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and then the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God." And it says this is going to be obvious. It's not going to be something that you go, I wonder if, Ronald Wilson Reagan, he had 6 letters in each of his names, so he must be the Antichrist.
Yeah. People
have always, thought U.S. presidents or the Pope or someone. This is going to be something. It says, don't be deceived. It's going to be obvious.
Yeah.
Now, the word apostasy, there's